Well, after voters in Ohio passed Issue 1 last week, allowing for abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy, the legacy media and even some Republican campaign strategists began to grumble that candidates might need to consider a retreat from protecting human life. I continue to emphasize the need for pro-life candidates to go on the offense for protecting the unborn, especially when the Democrats have staked out the extreme position of abortion until birth with zero restrictions. Fortunately, that message for Republican candidates that they need to stand for life is coming from the Republican Party. It's in the party platform, and it's coming from the party leadership, who's not retreating from this issue. Here's a clip this past weekend. Ronna McDaniel was on NBC Meet the Press. Clip 2, please.
We also have to define ourselves before the Democrats define us. And this is my #1 message. If you're digging yourself out of a hole, you're going to lose. But if you go on TV and you say to the American people, listen, we all are passionate about this issue, and it's confusing right now. But in a time of consensus, can't we agree on reasonable limitations at 15 weeks when a baby feels pain?
In other words, this is not the time to go silent, to lose our voice on this issue. Joining me now to talk about this is Ronna McDaniel, Chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. Ronna, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me, Tony, and thanks for talking about this issue so vocally. I think it's really important.
Well, I thank you, because you've never wavered on this message, even when the pundits and others have said we need to back away from this issue. I think you summed it up in that clip very well. What happened in the midterm elections in 2022 is that the Republican position was not articulated by Republicans. They were defined by Democrats who spent so much more money on this issue while Republicans were silent. If it's important, we're not going to be silent about it.
We shouldn't be silent. Listen, we're proud to be a party that stands for the unborn. And I think coming out of Roe, after 50 years of silence and people not having to navigate this issue, it's really important that we define ourselves before the Democrats do. Let's talk about pregnancy crisis centers. Let's talk about getting rid of cumbersome regulation to adoption. But let's also put the Democrats on the defense, because they stand for late-term abortion. They stand for gender selection abortion. Can't we even say to them, won't you agree that when a baby feels pain, when a baby can physically feel its life being taken away from them, that is a bridge too far? And they won't meet us even there. They are the extreme on this issue. And when you say that to the voters, we win.
Right. And it's about where we are in building consensus. And that's how we, pro-lifers, how we got to this point of seeing Roe overturned. It was step by step, inch by inch, as we built that consensus, educating people, winning hearts and minds. It's the same playbook. I mean, we've got to continue to do that.
We do, and I think we have a lot of candidates. There's a miscommunication. The RNC doesn't do TV, right? We're ground game. But a lot of our candidates and consultants are afraid to tackle this issue, and they just can't be. In Virginia, our candidates were outspent by 9 times on abortion messaging. We've seen this across the country where our candidates are being told, don't talk about it. But if you get out and define yourself first, and you say to the public, this is where I stand, this is who I am, let me tell you about where I stand on this issue, and let me tell you where my Democrat opponent is, we will win. But you've got to put money behind it. You can't say it behind a paywall or on a phone call.
Right.
You've got to put money defining yourself first before the Democrats do, because they will define us and say we won't give life-saving care for miscarriages or ectopic pregnancies, things that are total lies, but they will fearmonger. And when a lie goes unanswered, it becomes the truth.
Yes, and we saw that they put millions of dollars into the messaging in Ohio, where they just won issue 1. But 2 points I want to make here. First is what you're saying on this program, you say everywhere, whether it's on CNN,
Yeah.
whether it's MSNBC, CBS. I've heard you say it there. I've heard you say it at meetings of Republican donors. So this message is consistent. I want my viewers and listeners to hear that. But I want you to go back for just a moment and explain the role of the RNC, because I think a lot of people misunderstand what the RNC does.
Oh, I appreciate that. You know, we are the turnout machine. So we're in 70 lawsuits right now protecting election integrity. We're out there pushing bank your vote, but we don't do the messaging for the candidate. And that makes sense. The candidate uses their general consultant and their pollster to determine how they're going to identify and communicate to voters. I say this way. We build the road, all the cars drive on it. But the cars don't always take our directions. And so we're going to give them the best advice, but they need us to be doing things like voter registration and turn out the vote. And if you look at Virginia and even Kentucky this week, more Republicans turned out than Democrats. So I don't think it's a turnout issue. I think it's a messaging issue, and we've got to get this right before 2024. And it's really going to be up to candidates to be able to define themselves on this issue.
Yeah, I think I've seen that, and I think you're doing a good job in the turnout, although this is not directed at you. I'm directing this to churches and to our audience. When you've got turnout in some places like Kentucky, I think it was 40 in the 40s, we need to be turning out in every election and voting. And I want to challenge, Christians to turn out every time there's something on the ballot, because when you've got less than half of the population voting, your vote can actually have a greater impact if you show up to vote.
That's so true. It's so true. And Democrats have an unlimited pot of money, right? They have big tech. They've got Hollywood. They have all these outside groups. They have Planned Parenthood. They are absolutely mobilized and financed. And we need everybody coming together because our country's at stake. Our values are at stake. Our future's at stake. The American dream's at stake. The American family is at stake. How we identify as male and female is at stake. Our children are at stake. Our religious liberty is at stake. And Democrats, if they get their way, if they take the Senate, if they win the White House and they get the House, they will get rid of the filibuster. They will stack the Supreme Court, and they will fundamentally change the America we know and love. And that is what we are fighting for in 2024. I will work alongside every single candidate, but Democrats have nothing to run on except for abortion. And they spent $350 million on it in 2022. They're going to use the same playbook in 2024. And our candidates need to get up to speed and be able to go on TV and articulate where we stand, because when we do, we win.
I think you're absolutely right. You're spot on. That's exactly what's going to unfold. And if they want to know how to talk about it, they need to tune into Washington Watch and just listen, because we talk about it frequently. Ronna, I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to see you.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.